What's up, guys? Just got out of Return of the King extended edition in theaters, and it was incredible. Really, I think I'll just try and explain a lot of my thought processes and what I really felt as I was watching it. Um, Gosh, it's by far the best in the trilogy, I think. It's just carries so much weight, and the themes and emotions that it brings about, at least that it brought about in me, was leaps in magnitude stronger than what I felt upon rewatch of the first and second. The first and second movies are incredible. They're so fun. The second one, The Two Towers especially. But the third movie, Return of the King, carries so much weight. And again, I said it previously, I just imagine making these films now. There's just something, so much passion, creativity, and just delicate work that went into this entire trilogy. And you can see it in every frame, especially of this third film. And I wonder why we don't seem to experience that as much of late. I guess these films are maybe just a time capsule at that turn of the century, when maybe it was back when people were still built different. I don't know. And obviously, these films were building off of an existing source material, but having read the books myself, the films are better, and that almost never happens. The only series I can think of where the films were better than the source material is The Chronicles of Narnia. And I'm just so glad we have these films. And part of me was just, wow, it's almost, can you guys be less talented? This is just, everything about it is perfect. Film picks off right where the second one left off. And in the confrontation with Saruman, I really find it interesting, the dialogue exchange between Saruman and King Theoden. How Saruman says that King Theoden is a lesser son of greater science. What a chilling insult. And you can tell it really shakes Theoden to his core. I think maybe, I've definitely been there, times where I feel inadequate, especially thinking on our origin, our heritage, those of us that follow that kind of thing. I mean, sometimes we don't feel like we measure up, but Theoden says to Grima to be free of him. And as the film continues, you can really see in Theoden's thought process that he's trying to overcome when he was controlled by Saruman in the second film. And he's on a redemption arc of sorts. And from there, again, with the source material, I think it was brilliant the way they used Saruman's death from the book and just seamlessly adapted it into the opening of Return of the King Extended Edition. It works so much better. So much better. And then I think about the dynamic with Gondor and how it's a regime of sorts that's fallen from grace. They say the line of kings failed and stewardship of the realm was given to lesser men. But the people still hold out hope that things can improve. And I reflect on that a lot, how it's easy to look around and just get so bogged down and assume things will never improve, but things can be restored. They can be, much like Aragorn's blade, the shards of Narsil. They were restored eventually. In this film, there's a lot of focus on what things can become. They can return to the way they should be. As Arwen is about to leave, she sees a possible future. And Elrond tells her that future is almost gone, but she says, but it is not lost. Or think of the dialogue exchange between Aragorn and Gandalf towards the beginning of the film, where Gandalf asks, how do we know if Frodo's even alive? And Aragorn says, what does your heart tell you? Simple lessons like that. And again, I think the role of Denethor and how he just shows all that is incorrect with the current dynamic in Gondor. He's using his grief as a shield, which can be understandable to a certain extent. He lost his son Boromir. It's his fault. He's the one that told Boromir to go to Rivendell. But in a time of crisis and need, as Gandalf states, he's charged with the defense of Gondor, and he's not doing what he should be. And what a performance. They just really do everything they can to make Denethor seem despicable. It is entertaining, though, I will say that. His treatment of Faramir, and as Faramir rides off to what he knows is certain death, he even states, I'm doing this for what Gondor can become and what it is, or what it was. Maybe not what it currently is. He's not doing it because his father is crazy. He's doing it to sustain and uphold the memory of what Gondor was and what it still can become. He says he would gladly give his life to defend her beauty.
Do not throw away your life so rashly.
Where does my allegiance lie if not here? This is the city of the men of Numenor. I will gladly give my life to defend her beauty, her memory, her wisdom.
Again, I think that as we look around and see the world around us, it can be easy to have that morbid way of thought, kind of like Frodo experiences on occasion, right? That one moment where he says, I don't think I'm coming back. And Sam tells him, it's just morbid thinking. We'll make it back. We should strive to be more like Faramir and focus on the past and the way things can improve. Just have those principles, that moral upstanding character. And we can't afford to be so divided. For a season, it seems, Theoden doesn't want to help Gondor because they didn't help them in the previous film. But ultimately he casts that aside and off to war they go. And he lays it all out on the line to disprove Saruman's statement. Theoden dies a hero. And as he states, and with Bernard Hill, rest in peace, much like Theoden King, off he went to return to the halls of his fathers, in whose company he will not be ashamed. And from an action standpoint, no complaints. It was so fun seeing the siege of Minas Tirith and the Battle of Pelennor Fields on the big screen. Again, with it being the 4K edition, some of the CGI is showing its age, but not by much. And if they were showing the original rendition, I wouldn't have even have noticed. And the seamless blending of practical effects with computer-generated imagery is just the way it should always have been done, Hollywood. I don't know why we stopped doing that. It should have kept doing that for forever. I'm glad it's coming back in some films of late, such as Dune Part 2. And they focus a lot on oaths. Éomer says to his riders, the riders of Rohan, "Oaths you have taken, uphold them all for Lord and land." I really think that speaks magnitudes of the ancient traditions, and we should hold to our oaths and our word. We're meant for more if we can uphold those standards. Become who we were born to be, like Aragorn. And then we have the dynamic with Frodo and the ring. How, in a sense, he begins to be a bit prideful. He holds on to it, doesn't want Sam to help him carry the burden. And I imagine each of us, perhaps we have a favorite sin, or maybe sin's not the right word, or a favorite habit, or whatever it may be that we tend to cling to, but we should learn to just let it go. But we can't do it alone. We need a friend like Sam. When it reaches that moment where Frodo can't even remember the Shire, he's in a dark place. We may go through that ourselves. But who helped him get out of that? Having a great friend like Sam. And when we're going through things like that ourselves, we should strive to be like Sam. When we're suffering, we might wish, oh, if only I had a friend that could help me out right now. We need to be that friend. And Frodo does succumb to the temptation. He puts the ring on right there at the end. And it's almost just fate or happenstance that the ring is destroyed, with Gollum showing up and the altercation. And you can see that Frodo feels guilty about that. especially in the scene when the entire kingdom bows to him and the other hobbits. If you look at the expression on his face, he doesn't feel like he's worthy of it. And that's why the ending of the film is so long. Sometimes people complain, why is the Return of the King ending a good 20 minutes or something? It's supposed to be. The last scene, as they depart, it shows that Frodo has finally accepted that he did his part. He's forgiven himself. And at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal. They still got the job done. He is worthy. He's worthy to go across the sea to, and if you look at the lore, it's basically like going to heaven. That really got me, especially when they had to say goodbye. And when Gandalf, who is, if you look in the lore, is essentially, I've alluded to this in a previous video, he's an angelic spirit. He's basically Jesus Christ. And he says, my work here is done, right? And they have to say goodbye. Really emotional stuff. And then the Return of the King, the restoration of the broken line of kings. And if you want to connect it to divine right of kings, but I don't really uphold to that way of thinking. But it is interesting to think about how in The Lord of the Rings, literally an angelic being is the one that put the crown on Aragorn. And he said, may the days of the king be blessed.
Now come the days of the king. May they be blessed.
Best films ever made. Does not get better than this. And I recommend them to anyone. An incredible achievement on every level. From the acting, the soundtrack, the ending song of the film and the credits. Powerful stuff. Please rewatch these films. Show them to a friend. And comment below on what this incredible trilogy has taught you about life and what we should strive to be and do as people here on Earth. And those are my thoughts. And it was a great pleasure to check these films out again and share what I think about them. And if you want to see more of this type of content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.